think? Question of the day. Was there really a blue wave? How would you rate this latest election, the midterms here? Let me just say, but before we get to your opinion, before we get to my opinion, the objective answer is no.
Democrats incredibly confident, optimistic, and Republicans privately back to pessimism and thinking the House is probably gone.
Who's he talking to?
Maybe can hold on to the Senate, but the blue wave feels stronger now than it did 30 days ago.
It is. Rankings releasing right now give the Democrats even more reason to feel bullish about their odds of taking the big prize, control of the House of Representatives.
Midterm elections that will reveal whether the much-discussed blue wave is real and whether it is big enough to deliver one or even both houses of Congress to the Democrats.
Yeah. And by the way, that's also scaled back from when they were like, we might even win the Senate.
So there's Kavanaugh.
The other way. Oh, yeah.
Well, I would say this, there are a couple of different takeaways. Let's takeaway number 3. This wasn't a historic election at all by any stretch of the imagination for either party. I really do think this was, as far as if you're just looking at pure politics, win some, lose some. Republicans picked up some governorships. Democrats, of course, they picked up. How do we know? Do we have the final seat count in Congress? Exactly, because I know they're tallying up some more votes.
I thought there was one more, or maybe two more.
All right. So it's in the 20s. But midterms, very important to know, usually result in a party in power losing seats.
Yeah, every time. It's every single time.
Now, historically, if you look at that unpopular presidents, it's been an average of more than 30. It's somewhere around 37 seats for unpopular presidents.
Big swings.
President Obama lost 63 House seats and 6 Senate seats.
That's insane.
That's what you would call historic. Okay, so I think I actually have some numbers. Yeah, Obama 63, Clinton 52, Eisenhower 48, Ford 48, Johnson 47, Truman 45, Bush in 2006 30, Truman 29.
Wow.
So yeah, these are significant numbers. In comparison, actually, Republicans did really pretty well in only losing, I think it's 28 seats as the final count in the House, and then gaining some Senate seats. Objectively, the blue wave that it was more of a ripple. They got some seats, but it wasn't something that's going to be changing the entire political landscape. Here's some real. You're not going to hear this from the people who are just the cheerleaders for Donald Trump, and you're not going to hear this from the people on the left who want to say, oh, there was a blue wave, right? I've seen people saying, it was a red wave. Oh, no, it was a blue wave. No, the truth is it was win some, lose some. But here's the Midwest. If we look at that, it's kind of what I talked about with the last general election. Let's not think that the blue wall in the Midwest was broken down by President Donald Trump because they all of a sudden became Republicans or conservatives. They just didn't like Hillary Clinton, and they thought that Donald Trump was going to give them more free crap because you're talking about unions. When you talk about unions in the Midwest, okay, particularly in Michigan, you're basically talking about glorified welfare recipients. And if it would have been Bernie versus Donald Trump, Bernie would have won. So let's not count on that for Donald Trump in 2020. We see that here at the midterm when it goes back to like, more money, please, more money, please.
Every single time.
They will eat themselves alive completely. Takeaway number 2, I think this is really important, and not a lot of people are talking about this in the media. The single biggest thing that Democrats, the biggest factor that Democrats thought would help them, undeniably is what hurt them the most, the lynch mobbing of Brett Kavanaugh. That is monumental.
That backfired beyond all belief.
It was going to be a blue wave until Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
And I think actually, all battleground states, all swing state Democrats who opposed Kavanaugh, every single one was defeated.
Wow.
The one, I think it was Manchin who supported Kavanaugh?
Yeah, supported Kavanaugh.
Reelected.
And he was reelected. So I love this. I love that there are consequences for their actions because that's how voters tell politicians how they should act in the future, right? It's not just us getting angry and then going to the polls and reelecting the people that made us angry. They actually voted them out of office. Yes. There has to be a price to pay when you screw around with stuff like this.
Right, and I think that is really important to know. We'll get into more kind of the cultural ramifications in a little bit, but again, Kavanaugh they thought was a deadlock. They thought we're coming in off of Me Too. Harvey Weinstein is a germ. Bill Cosby is a germ. Let's just accuse this man of being a gang rapist, and we won't get him confirmed. We'll sail through the midterms, and then everyone said, hold on a second, that could be my dad or my brother or my son, and you just want to say rape. By the way, again, the FBI probe. Nothing. There is only evidence to the exact opposite of what they've said. What's Dr. Christie? Dr. Christie Ford, what is she up to? Like 9.8 million on her GoFundMe? Why would she lie?
There's no reason.
What possible motivation could she have for lying? I don't know. Maybe the judge. I can think of 12.6 million reasons. I think the number just keeps going up like outside at McDonald's. How many frauds served? Takeaway, I think the main takeaway here too is, so midterms are a little bit different. than general elections like 2016. More about strategy, definitely more about funding, more about a ground game, looking at districts, as opposed to national elections, which you can at least factor in some cultural outliers. That's how President Donald Trump won. That's why the polls were much more inaccurate in 2016 than this one, because there's a cultural influence that takes place. Again, also much lower turnout with midterms. So you typically have people who are much more politically motivated, people who are more politically inclined, people who take an interest in the political process. With general elections, that's not necessarily the case. The closest thing we had to a general election, I would say comparable to Trump-Clinton, last night was Beto Cruz.
Yeah, this was huge.
It's the closest. It was a test tube, exactly. It was the closest thing to an anti-Trump, pro-Hillary celebrity blitz like we saw in 2016. Full-on media assault on Cruz and unwavering support for Beto. I mean, they pushed so hard for him. I think we have a collage here of.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it the night of the election after voting had closed? Was it Beyonce is like, don't forget to go out and vote for Beto.
Whoops.
What?
I'm glad she was pushing for
Where are all the non-contributing ladies at?
Ouch.
And by the way, Democrats raised $69 million for Beto. That's I think almost $20 million more than Ted Cruz. So again, if you look at this, people are saying, well, they were trying to flip it purple. And if you look at how they kind of won the cities with Beto, that's not new. That's always how Texas has been won. Cruz won this election the same way he's won most of his elections as far as which kind of districts voted for him. The difference here is that, and by the way, this doesn't include the free advertising.
No, it doesn't.
Colbert, Ellen, what else was it? Bill Maher,
not
not afforded to Cruz at all. He still didn't win.
What we said would happen is actually happening. I think Alyssa Milano tweeted out earlier, hashtag Beto 2020. Like, it's happening already. They want him to run for president after he got beat by Ted Cruz.
But Texas dodged a bullet. We've got to be honest. That was very close. I hope our side is seeing this. We've talked about this before. And, you know, Beto's out there on a skateboard, and he's doing Ellen and Colbert.
Yeah.
These people need to see how they can reach their audience. Yeah. And this is the way
they
it's
need to
done
get better
now.
at that.
This is it. Yeah. I mean, networks and cable news with 72-year-olds buying pocket catheters. That's not the way to get to the audience.
I got to say, when Wilford Brimley comes out and talks about diabetes, I just find myself in a comfortable trance.
Diabetes test supplies.
To sum this up, last night, historically low gains for the opposition party. The primary issue, like we talked about, the left that they thought was going to turn the tide is actually what hurt their blue wave, Kavanaugh. And finally, if you're going to look at this as some kind of a cultural weather stick to see which way, I know weather sticks don't measure which way the winds are blowing at this point. I don't even know how a weather stick works, honestly. I saw one in Sky Mall and I thought, how is this going to function? It seems as though this is very underpriced for something that can tell me the future. If you're going to actually...
and
Is that
bankrupt.
those like two sticks that they like point you to water?
That's the water divination.
I don't know what that
water
is
weights,
at
totally
all.
different thing.
But if you're going to look at this culturally as any kind of an indicator as to where we're headed, the results here are pretty clear. The leftist, the elitist media, Hollywood, the entertainment complex was completely rejected. The petri dish for that was Beto versus Cruz. And of course, as you look culturally in the American societal fabric at large, Kavanaugh, Beto, Cruz. These are clear-cut examples that people are still firmly in the Trump camp. And I'm not even talking about conservatives. I'm talking about people who are saying, you know what? Okay, I'm tired of appeasing the left. Again, appeasing crocodiles is futile. I saw some conservatives come out and say, well, you know what? Maybe Kavanaugh should step down now so we can heal the nation. No, this is how you do it. This is how you turn a blue wave into a ripple. You don't apologize. Trump won by, yes, he's bombastic. Yes, he's kind of an ass. But the last thing he did was apologize to scumbags who would eat him alive anyway. And if you look at this election, you see the exact same trend. What helped Republicans? What stopped the bleeding as it relates to the Democrats gaining any kind of ground? Kavanaugh. They shot themselves in the foot, so terrible analogy there because there really was. They basically shot them and they were bleeding more. So I'm talking about Republicans were kind of, they just kept kneecapping themselves. And then Democrats were like, wait, whoa, what are you doing? Give me that crowbar. And they just decided it was who could inflict self-harm. If you're going to look at this election, you can look at the micropolitics, you can look at the macro. Things haven't changed since Donald Trump. And I think if you compare it to even the Tea Party with Barack Obama, they overestimated their influence and Barack Obama won in a pretty big election, pretty handily. I think Donald Trump wins handily going forward. But you tell me what you think. Is this a victory? Is it a defeat? And I don't know. I don't really care because we don't have a crystal ball or a weather stick. Hey there, YouTube viewer. You like Samantha Bee? Of course not, because you actually made it to this end card. You are a miracle of the internet. I would say subscribe or hit the notification button, but I don't really know what that means on YouTube. You might not get notified anyway, but you can join up at loudwithcrowder.com/mug club. That's mug with this wonderful hand-etched mug, and you get to watch not only clips, but the full 1 hour daily show every single day.